So the whole point to this coaching thing is because I have gone through massive amounts of trauma, and I was fine through my 20s and fine through my 30s. Then my 40s hit and I had a child and my mum passed away, and then like my whole world just fell apart. So this whole year is about me getting from where I am, which is can't take action, vastly unmotivated, very much in survival mode. Pretty much spends every day feeling like I have no value. So I don't know where my value is in the world, which means I don't know what to do, because if you feel like you have no value, it's like, well, what's the point of doing anything? And then going from there and then having conversations with people like you to go, okay, well, this is where I am. And I want to be somewhere completely different in 12 months' time. So having different conversations with different people every week to kind of get a different perspective, because I understand when you're stuck in this place, you have a very narrow perspective. And I could do coaching with one coach, but then you're only getting their narrow perspective week after week after week after week, and you're dealing with their limitations as well and their past stories. Whereas this way, and I did it
You're opening
really
yourself up to everything.
exactly, and I did it really successfully last year. Last year I was a lot worse than what I am now, and last year it gave me I came in with this perspective and I walked out with this perspective. So the idea is to do exactly the same thing this year. Is I know I'm coming in with a certain perspective and I want to hear people's different opinions and experiences and coaching ideas and skills, so then I can open that up and broaden it.
That's right.
That's what this is all about. That's why you're here.
I've not only have I been in that mindset, but I probably frequent that place often.
Mm-hmm.
It's I don't think it's a static situation. Um, speaking from my own experience where literally there was a time it was 7 months after I started obstacle course racing. And during that 7 months, I was riding so high in life.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was working for me. I was improving at work. I was in a new relationship. I was getting in shape and doing badass stuff and just everything was going well. And then I got in a car accident.
Mm.
And that gave me nerve damage, herniated discs. The same day, my cat died of 12 years. 10 days later, my dad was arrested for assault with a deadly weapon. And this is a 70-year-old man who walks with a cane. It was in Fort Myers after the hurricane, and somebody had stolen his neighbor's generator, another old guy, and he literally went over there with him, and an altercation occurred, and he pulled a weapon. And so he's in jail, has a heart issue. They sent him to the hospital. I can't talk to him. I have no idea what's going on. And then I got the call that the lady who had hit me in the accident, that she died. And even though all I was doing was sitting at a red light when she hit me going full speed, the last thing that happened to her in her life was me. And that
Yeah.
was hard to hear. That was hard to deal with.
Yeah.
At the
Yeah.
same time, where I said everything had been going good for me, like I was crushing it. We just brought this new guy in at work, like at exactly that moment, and was rapidly making changes to the company that was unseating everything that I had built for, I don't know, a decade or more. And you got to understand, as those previous 6 months, I was improving in mind, body, and spirit. I had
Mm.
been sober for 2 years already. And it was really through this experience of obstacle course racing and then adding purposeful intention to my life and pursuing a goal and then getting discipline and consistency and like just incremental physical health changes. And people were recognizing it in me. And they're telling me this, they're telling me what they're seeing different in me. And so it just felt really good. And suddenly I felt like it was all being taken away, or maybe it wasn't real to begin with. And so I wanted to give up. And those were the
Mm.
words. I just said, I want to quit. I want to give up. I just didn't know what that meant, because what am I going to give up? I wasn't going to kill myself. I wasn't thinking of suicide. Like it was just, I was stuck and sad and lost and confused. And So as much as I said I wanted to give up, I kept going to work. You know, you go to work on Monday, you go to work
Mm.
on Tuesday, you eat when you have to. I'm still walking the dog. I'm still putting clothes on. I'm still showering. Next thing I know, run out of food, you go to the grocery store. So as much as I just was in this mental state, you just keep moving forward. And it was a month later where I still didn't have a diagnosis on the nerve injury that I now have a diagnosis on. And so I just got defiant like a rebellious teenager and I put another race on the calendar. It was about a month or so away. I wouldn't have been physically prepared for it. And I had every intention of modifying where I had to so I wouldn't further like injure myself. But it was when I was trying to train for it. You seen Rocky 3?
No, I haven't seen any Rocky movies. I must be the only person on the planet that hasn't seen one, but no.
Well, I mean, if I were coaching you on your life situation right now, I'd say you need to watch Rocky, but just the first four. Um, just the first four. Stop there. But anyways, in Rocky 3, he was the champ, and then he got cocky and arrogant. He lost. His manager died, like, and he just felt deflated. And so his old rival, who is his new best friend now, is trying to train him, and he's not in it. Like he's just stopping. He's like, tomorrow, tomorrow. And that's where Apollo Creed was yelling at him, there is no tomorrow, there is no tomorrow. So if you've ever seen that clip, that's what it's from. But I felt like Rocky, where I couldn't I put a race on the calendar, but I wasn't in it. My
Mm.
heart wasn't in it. I wasn't motivated to train. I was sad. I was unmotivated. I was depressed. And I was standing outside because I live in Florida and I live in Tampa Bay. And I actually had a house on the water at that moment. And literally the storm was like rolling in because it was like September. And this is Florida. It's flat. You can see for hundreds of miles. So it was kind of like a movie-esque scene. And I'm like, I'm in the storm. Like the metaphor was I felt like I was just in this storm of my life. And I was listening to some motivational thing on YouTube. And I remember the guy kept going, like, are you a victim or a survivor? And back and forth like that. And I didn't like my options because I had looked back at everything I had been through: cancer 4 times, type 1 diabetes, sleep apnea, nerve damage, 2 rollover fatality car accidents. I almost died from meningitis, childhood neglect, of abuse, like everything that had rolled up to that point. And as much as I thought I had been tough and gritty, that's when it occurred to me that I hadn't overcome anything. I was still a victim. I was still playing the victim. And
Mm.
I was playing a victim to everything that was going on at that moment, too. And that's when I decided, I'm like, well, there's only one person who can solve this, and that's going to be me. I don't like my choices. Survival isn't a goal. What's the point of just hanging on for dear life?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering about. Hang on a minute, victim or survival? It's like, aren't they both as bad as each other? Aren't they
It's,
both
when we talk,
basically living in shit and in
yeah,
hell?
pretty much. And I'm like, cancer survivor is like a 4-letter word to me. And I'm
Yeah.
like, fuck that. So I'm going to be a warrior. And literally, I do a glorified temper tantrum. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do this because every doctor tells me I shouldn't do it. So that's why I'm going to do it. I'm going to spit in the face of cancer because I'm here today. I'm going to fight for the life that I have every single damn day. Sleep apnea is a bitch, man. Like I'm dying today because I had a bad sleep apnea late night last night. And I think about at least a decade of my life, mostly in my 20s, where I didn't go out with friends. I didn't do things because of how I felt with sleep apnea. And I wasn't living my life. I was constantly afraid of my physical injuries, of nerve damage, of things just preventing me from doing other things in life. And I said, you know what? I had enough. And I mean, like, it was a declaration, and it's a mantra for my life that I will not be defined by my adversity, but rather my triumph over it. And I look at everything like that now. I'm
See, I
like,
want to get there because I am still very much in the, not the victim, but very much in that survival, trying to survive my past, trying to survive the hurt, the pain, the emotional, like all the emotional shit that's being shoved down. But also the trying to survive the programming that basically says you are worth nothing on this planet. You're worth nothing. You have no value. Your point here is like it doesn't exist. There is no point. There's a purpose for everybody else on the planet except for me. And so trying to shift that mindset or I understand what I kind of get is that for people that get to a point where I think things get so bad, something in their brain just snaps and they're like, right, that's it, I'm changing this. this is what I'm changing. Haven't reached that point. I'm still looping in the in that negative thought process.
Feedback.
And no, and people say just think positive. It's like that shit doesn't work. That does not stop the negative loop. That's just putting up a piece of cardboard, hoping the cardboard would hide all the crap that's happening underneath. But I also did good and not so good. So I spent probably about 6 years going into my subconscious mind and learning all about every negative thought I had, every pattern, every story, every experience, every trauma. Like I dove head first into my shit when I was in my 30s. And so I can just constantly hear, like, where a lot of people, their negative thoughts are very subconscious and they don't really hear them and they kind of happen in the background. Mine are right in front of my face. And I can hear them and it's like, damn, okay. And I can feel them, the feelings. Like yesterday was a rough day. And I was sitting in bed yesterday and just looking at this feeling going, I don't know how much longer I can live with this feeling. Like this is just, every time I go to do something, this feeling comes up and it's just wipes me out. It wipes out all the motivation, wipes out all the intentions, wipes out anything that is going to move me forward, and basically just, it's hard to explain, but it just wipes out all the positivity, all the happy, all the joy, and just sits me back down and goes, no, this is your rock. You just live with that rock. Okay. And I haven't figured out how to find that place where I can change that yet. And I don't know how you're not where I am after everything you've been through, because, you know, you're kind of like me. Like you get, as a kid, you probably, or as a teenager in your 20s, you get up, but then something throws you back down again. You get up and then you get thrown back down again. You get up, you get thrown back down again. And I think I just got to a point where I'm just tired of getting thrown down. And so my mum's death was like, sorry to interrupt, my mum's death was like the big overall, that's it, I'm done, I'm out, I can't take it anymore. This is my last whack. You go.
My mom died 11 months after I got sober.
Mm-hmm.
She was only 63.
Yeah,
it was
right.
a very
it's hard,
complicated
isn't it?
relationship. But there's a lot we can unpack there, and I don't think you're gonna like some of what I have to say, and you've probably heard some of it before. And one of the things that's hard for anybody to hear, but it's not that, oh, just think positive, but positivity or negativity is a choice. It's a decision that is made.
Absolutely, it is.
So as far as like, where do the thoughts come from? Because you're choosing those thoughts, and you can choose other thoughts. That doesn't mean you just do it once and it goes away. That would be nice, right? I'd sell that as a pill all day. Like my negative thoughts, like there's some issues that I don't talk about with my dad, because we have a good relationship now, and I don't even want to dredge up things that'll put me in a bad place, you know, and I've accepted most of it, which is why I'm okay with this in a way, but it doesn't mean that certain things don't put me back there. You know, I had a very tough relationship with my mom. It doesn't mean that certain things don't trigger me. And the thing is this, and I'll just give you like 2 seconds of background on this too. My dad was like trying to get clean when I was like 6, and that's when he left. And I grew up on an island, all right? This is not an after school program, after school story, but you know, my mom had no capacity to love me or care for me whatsoever. I was rejected from right off the bat. About a year later, after pretty much fending for myself, I went to go live with my dad and his new wife or new fiance. The very next day we were thrown out. I was thrown out of 2 houses by 2 different moms in one fucking day.
Wow.
If that doesn't make you feel rejected and unloved, I don't know what else is. And I didn't even realize this shit till recently. So I get it. There's a process, right? And me talking about it now is how that doesn't have a hold on me anymore. And believe it or not, my relationship with my wife is better because I'm voicing this to you right now.
Yeah.
Because I don't put that on her as much as I used to. A year ago, I didn't recognize any of this. I knew those things happened, but I never really thought about the impact that they had on me. And now there's a friend of mine. She's about my age. I'm 44. She's a little bit older, and she tells me about the issues with her parents growing up, and basically, you know, she was rejected by her dad's love, And instead of, she tried to live like a perfect little princess to get his love, and that's what some people will do, right? Like you just people pleasers or perfectionists. I went the other way. I went like, well, fuck you, I don't need it, and went independent. And so I thought I was gritty. I thought I was tough. But what I was all along was creating that victim. And for a while, I think these things help us out. That's also part of the reason why it's harder to let go. Like there's things that you're probably dealing with that helped you survive.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
I
just pure survival. I went through something similar to you. My dad left when I was 3 days old, so that was fun. I'm like,
way to
I
one
went.
up me.
Not intentionally. I will happily take that back and go, you know what? My dad didn't leave until I was in my 20s. But I went through something similar that my mum kicked me out when I was in year 7. So I was like 12 when my mum kicked me out. And then she sent me to my dad, who then decided that he didn't want me. So then he sent me to my grandma, who after 3 months, I was begging my mum to let me come back home. So I had to beg my mum, and I had to agree to all of these rules and all of these requirements. I was 12. So I get it when you say, that rejection, that not, and you don't, I guess I didn't realize kind of until now as I'm listening to you, and that's where I said at the beginning, having these conversations just really widens my perspective as I was listening to you and hearing you going, and then trying to go, I wonder how that impacted you being rejected on that level. And then I heard this voice in my head go, have you ever thought that you were that rejected in your life? And it's like, no, I don't think I'd ever until this moment right now really sunk
And then you're like,
into,
oh,
oh, okay, that level of rejection, but also the shame of just existing. Because imagine living a life where your mum and your dad don't want you.
it's grow up not feeling good enough. And I'll tell you how this helped me because 5 months ago, I left my job to become a motivational speaker. Before that, though, I had enrolled in a course with some coaches, and it's called the Purpose Company. And I'm going through the whole thing, and part of it is like trying to understand who your people are. The people that
Mm-hmm.
you're really trying to speak to. And I was making assumptions on some stuff about what their greatest and deepest fear was. And I was like, you know what? I don't think this is something I should guess on my own. And so I reached out to about 25 people or so, not my closest friends, people that I know, some closer than others. And I was blown away at how, number one, they were all willing to help me, and they were all willing to be vulnerable. And the overwhelming theme among them, not everybody, but among them, was that this fear of not being good enough. It all boiled down to not being able to provide for their family, not being good enough for their spouse, for their children, just not fitting in and not being accepted and not being good enough. And that's when I was like, holy shit, that's how I feel. And I'm like, that was literally out of 25 people or so. I think that's what 18 of them said. That's a lot. That's a fairly random sample of people because I actually have a pretty diverse like group of friends, and they overwhelmingly, for one reason or another, felt that way at one point, and then it's impacted all of the decisions we make. And not for nothing, that was a huge contributor to my drinking, because when I drank, I either fit in or I didn't care that, or you didn't fit in. It wasn't me. You know what I mean? I always felt accepted, and I felt like it was a superpower to me. So if anything, I was like good at it for a while until it turned into a kryptonite. But that was how I coped with that. And then the rest of the time I realized that I just had created false ego and this like persona to defend the fact that that I was a scared little kid up until like, I don't know, now.
Yeah.
And it,
Yeah.
and it really was now. And I'll tell you, I embrace vulnerability as a superpower now.
Mm.
There's topics I probably prefer not to talk about, but literally, if you brought them up and want to talk about them, there's nothing that's off the table, because I mean, it's how I get off that shame. It's how I
Mm.
get beyond it. Like I have to voice it. I have to, I'll get people who, because I'll sometimes I post daily motivational videos on all my social media, and a lot of time it's fitness related, but a lot of it's just self-talk. And, sometimes I'll express more vulnerable type stuff. And every once in a while, somebody makes some negative comment towards like, bro, this ain't your diary. I don't care. It's not for that person. I can't be rejected when I'm just trying to help other people. And that is my one piece of advice for anybody who's stuck, whether it be in life or just in the moment. There is no greater way out of a rut or to change perspective than to take action towards helping others. And it could be donating time to charity. It could be calling somebody for 5 minutes just to let them vent, let somebody out into traffic, buy somebody a cup of coffee. It's anytime we take our focus off of ourselves and put it on to helping others, it, number one, you just feel better. You feel a little more whole. Like you said, how can you not have value when you're actually helping another person? And even if it's temporary, who cares? These are the building blocks of life. Like there's not, if anybody ever said that they've been happy all the time in their life, I want whatever pills they're on because they're full of shit. All
Yeah.
these feelings people have is just sometimes we go through more than our share of stuff. And it's not, it's sometimes we see things that we're just not meant to process. I mean, there's certain traumas that, it's like I like to compare us to other animals and sometimes like that. And, if a raccoon sees a raccoon get mauled by something like that's just nature. We see something like that and we're traumatized. I was using that as a metaphor.
Hmm.
We have a different thinking and mechanism. So action is your best friend and helping others is what helps me.
But then, did you ever go through a stage where, I mean, you're fine at taking action now, but did you ever go through a stage where that action was seemingly impossible? Because that's kind of where I am. And I've had a couple of calls. So you're my third call. And I always bring this up of the taking action aspect is when you sit in a space where you feel like you have no value, action is hard. Just just making the bed is hard. Just sweeping the floor is hard. Eating food is hard. Eating food is hard for me. Um, so yeah, that's kind of where I trip over, I guess, because I understand logically all the concept. Think positively, take action, take small actions, stack your actions. So focus on just doing one thing and create that one thing into a habit and do that every day for 60 days and then bring in a new habit. But even that, after a couple of days, it just starts to get harder and harder and harder. And then that feeling comes up and it just takes me out. It just takes me out. And if I
I'll
use
tell you why
something
I'm
like
smiling.
yoga as an experience, I could do yoga for a couple of days. And I did. I was doing prana breathing. And I think I got to about a week and a half, which is progress for me. But then something happened, and because then I sold my house and we had to move, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I have to pack boxes. Packing boxes is way more important than breathing. And so then it just got pushed to the side. But again, that feeling came up and just went, packing boxes, you have to pack boxes now, this is not a priority. There's always something that is more important than the thing that I actually want to do.
So there's a couple things. I'm looking over at my whiteboard here. My keynote speech it tells my personal story, but then I share life lessons of resilience that I've learned through obstacle course racing. Lesson number 4 is called just start because you basically just read that part of the speech for me. And here's the thing, your people give you advice and they tell you to just do this and then that. You even just said, oh, and this and a habit in 60 days. Fuck, listen, you're talking to an alcoholic. I don't look 60 days into the future when it comes to something like that.
Yeah.
Today, just start. I don't know what time your next recording is, but if there's something you're supposed to do, just go take a walk. As a matter of fact, fuck it. Can we walk now? Like that's what I mean by just start. Get up, get after it, do something, anything. 5 minute walk is always the easiest thing in mind to do. Go drink a glass of water. When you move a muscle, you change a thought. Just start. But you have to have something that you're going to start. So this concept of change my life, that's going to kill you. Like that's not how that's I've never known anybody who can just say, "Hey, I'm making a life change tomorrow." When I got sober, I went to an AA meeting. One. The next day I went again. In July it'll be 10 years. God willing, but I'm not worried about July. It's 7:20 Eastern right now. When we're done here, I'm going to hang out with my wife for a half hour. I'm going to stretch and I'm going to bed. So I'm looking pretty good today in my sobriety, and I'll worry about tomorrow. I can't live any other way. I've been a motivational speaker for 5 months right now, right? I have made, okay, well, let's just say less than $1,000. I'm going to be extraordinarily bankrupt in no time. I can either go get another job and throw it all over the side, or I can just worry about what I'm doing today to impact my goals. I have to live in that. If you look at my social media videos, I always start by saying, right here, I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to me. I'm reminding myself to be present in this one moment. Now, the big difference that did give me a spark, though, is I know my purpose here. That's where you're stuck, right? Like if you probably had something that you might know that you're working towards, all this stuff is just going to come naturally to you, perhaps. Not only did I feel like I had no value, I thought I was the bad guy. When I got cancer the fourth time, I wasn't afraid of dying. I wanted to die.
Mm.
I figured that was supposed to happen. There's only so many times you can get cancer and not die. I had been a piece of shit most of my life and I was ready. That's the mentality I had. That was exactly 1 month before I was first invited to do a Spartan race. And by the way, I didn't even realize about that timing until like a year or two ago. So taking action, we have to know what we're working towards. There has to be some sort of a goal. And this is where I work with my clients right now. The couple that I have is on what's their new purpose. And a lot of times we hit these, again, these achievement levels in our life too. Even if we don't have trauma or things that are surfacing or holding us back, get to these points in our life where we ring the bell and then we're like, wait, what now? That's like one of the guys I'm coaching. He's like, what? I don't know what to do with myself now. He making really good money, he excelled in his career, he's got a great relationship, and he's like, all of a sudden he's having trouble getting out of bed in the morning. And it's because he doesn't have that new why. Now mine came to me. Mine was a long time in the making. And my guess is if you push forward with your journey, you're going to find your way too. And by the way, not for nothing, you're taking action every day. You just said you're talking to like 3 people today. That's taking action. So don't think that you're not, right? You got to make sure that you are celebrating the actions and the wins that you are doing, because we got two sides of that coin, one telling us that we're good, one telling us that we're bad. I get it. It's real. This morning I slept in because I have these days too.
Mm.
I didn't sleep in on purpose. I had trouble getting out of bed. The fear and uncertainty and all that blank space in front of me, like it still gets to me. It does, that's why I'm not saying it's like a perfect vision, but that's how I get through most days. And then sometimes I just have to, what did I do when I got out of bed this morning? I got up and I got mad at myself because I didn't wake up earlier and do my workout. So I just had to start my day hurrying. It's been on my mind all day. And I immediately go to, you're a piece of shit. You're a piece of shit. You're a piece of shit. My blood sugar was bad. So then I'm like, yep, you're a real piece of shit. And then I feel like I'm overweight. So I'll go, you're a fat piece of shit. Like I will be so damn mean to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And and keep in mind, like I'm not unhappy in life. That's just the stress and pressure of life. Everyone goes through that, what I just talked about. I'm not the only person in the world who's running out of money. Everybody is like facing financial issues in these times. So the just start action is about like just you got to do one thing. I'm not talking about creating habits yet. Just do the one thing. Just do one thing that you're not doing right now. When people ask me how do I get into do a Spartan race? I pull up the website and I say sign up. They say, well, how do I train? I'll tell you after you sign up. That's it. Like you have to take the first action. So I don't know where you're at in terms of finding goals. They don't always have to be huge, life-changing goals, but there has to be something. And since you don't seem to have a direction, picking any direction is better than nothing. Because even if you find out it's the wrong way, cool, go back and find out the right way.
Mm. I heard everything you said, and I think the part I'm missing is that acknowledgement of taking the action. So when during the whole last 4 years or 5 years now, whatever it is, of craziness, we ran from the city like a lot of people and ended up on acreage in the middle of nowhere, like a few people that decided that they just couldn't handle the city anymore. And it was the best decision for me, because when I was in the city at that time, I was having panic attacks every day. I was waking up in the middle of the night with panic attacks. I was always in a fear of panic and terrified of humans because of what everyone was doing to each other, and like the capacity of evil that could actually come out in the everyday person just because they listened to something someone told them on in the news, and then they turned it around and went, well, you're the bad person, so now we need to do something to punish you or get rid of you or yell at you. And so I used to get abuse at the shops because I didn't wear face masks, and I used to get highly abused at the shops, and it just ended up being I was already feeling unsafe in the world after the last 40 odd years of my life. So then to have now not only do I feel unsafe as a general in the world, now I actually really feel unsafe with individual humans in the world, because so many people just flipped a switch and went a little bit mad. So when we ran for the city, for the country, that was my goal. So I guess if I use it in terms of goal, that was my goal. My goal was, okay, and I can hear you, because when I have a goal, I'm actually really productive. So it was to sell my house, and the agent came out and gave me a price, and I said, well, I want 750. And he said, well, you're not going to get over 699. And that was like my way of looking at it and going, challenge accepted. Watch me. And then my thing is, when I have a goal, if I'm using this as an example more for myself to acknowledge, hang on a minute, you do have this capacity. You just haven't figured out how to move it from this experience to this experience. Because as soon as I know we're moving, as soon as I get that feeling inside me, it's time to move, I pack. And I pack everything except what we're using in the span of about a week or two. So I get seriously organized and get really productive. And I think it's because I've got something to move towards. I now have a goal. I now have something that I'm not only am I achieving, but it's something I want to achieve. And so then I ended up selling my house myself. And I looked at the market and I went, okay, what do people want right now? Well, they all want everything on video. So I did a 30-minute walk around of my entire property and house, and did this voiceover. I actually did a Zoom call where I played the video, and then I explained to everybody what was happening in each room and how each room had been set up. And I had about 25 people on the call. It was no different, I guess, to a coaching call, really, but I was trying to sell my house. I was using exactly the same technique to try and sell my house. And then I ended up having an offer based on that call for 750. And I just went, well, shit, the agent was wrong. And all of a sudden I'm walking out the door with the exact offer that I wanted from that exact process. And then I did something similar when I sold the place that we were just in coming down here, in that as soon as I knew it was time to move, I got up and started packing boxes. And I'd packed all the boxes before the house even went on the market, with exception to the main things that we had. And then thankfully I did, because then my appendix exploded, and then I spent 3 months of not being able to really pack a single box at all. But I'm trying to, it sounds like I'm rambling, but I'm trying to find that energy that got me to actually take that action, because I knew I had a goal. I knew I had something to work towards. And I also had a time limit, because obviously when you sell your house, you have a time limit. You have to be out by a certain date. So now all of a sudden there's pressure. And sometimes I thrive on that pressure of knowing, okay, well, I have to be out. I have to have this done by this date. And so then that's almost where some of my motivation comes from to get up. It's like, okay, well, now I have to have it done. So now I'm going to get up and do it. I guess maybe my problem is that I don't have any of that in my everyday life. There is no pressure. There's no pressure for me to, I don't know. I mean, the pressure's getting stronger as I'm running out of money, because I am running out of money. I'm running out of my savings. But still, there's still not enough pressure for me to take action, for me to, there's not enough momentum for me to move forward, or like you said, I don't know what my goal is. Like, what am I doing this show for? And I guess I kind of got a bit of an idea in the first coaching call that I did, because I tapped into I've spent so much time of my life under a storm with just rain clouds and thunder and lightning. And the lady I spoke to, Bernadette, she said, "What do you want?" And I said, because I went through all the material stuff, and I went, "I don't want any money. I don't want a car. I don't want a house. I've got a house. I've got a car. I've got money. I've got land. I want to know what life feels like to live in the sunshine. Like, what is that? What does that feel like? What does life in the sunshine feel like?"
I'm pulling something up as we're talking here because this is perfect timing. I gave a talk the other day and I just literally made a clip of it and where I described my first obstacle course race. And is there a share thingy here? Well, no, I might have lost it. Hold on. Downloads, folders, downloads. I may just have to tell you the story. Oh, there we go.
Is there a share
Server.
screen?
Yeah, hold on.
My first
Oops.
race experience was
Hold on.
Oh, good. No rush.
All right. Zoom. Exit minimize video. Share screen. Host disabled. I can't. You have to enable it for me.
Oh, how do I do that? I have to put my glasses on. And sorry,
All right,
everybody,
I'll
you're
just-
getting a very close view.
I could
of
just
the
tell you
phone.
after. So this clip,
Oh, there you go.
You got it?
I think so. Yeah.
All right, cool. Now where's the video? Can you see this video?
No, yeah. Give it a minute.
It says 1, so I think so. No, it's not. Why not? Sorry, I thought I was being smart here.
No, you're fine.
Hold on, maybe if I put this over there.
That's all the joys of technology. Is it a video that's on YouTube?
Not yet, no. I literally just clipped it like a little while ago. Let me try this again. There it is. All right. All right. Now do you see the video?
Yep. Look at that. It works.
I know, right? You got to be smarter than the computer. Hopefully the volume works.
transformative. I'm walking up to the start line and I'm seeing people jump the fire and come through and get their medals, and they're just covered in dirt and sweat and grit and awesomeness. And I wanted to be one of them. When was the last time you played outside and you weren't afraid to get your pants dirty? That's what it was like for me being at a Spartan race. Remember when you were a little kid, you just didn't care? Like, oh my God, I had created this victim mindset. I had created this bubble for myself for so long, convinced that I couldn't run, convinced that I couldn't do things. I convinced I couldn't live my life. And suddenly I'm out there just in the world, running through the woods, playing on obstacles like a big jungle gym, no fear, no doubt, not me against the world, just me in the world. It truly redefined everything that I believed about myself.
So how do I stop sharing? Sharing is pause, stop share. Perfect. All right, cool. The main aspect of that was I didn't know what was going to happen when I said yes to doing a race. I knew I needed to change, so I said yes to doing something different. And I had no idea the life that it was going to provide for me. When I went out, I had convinced myself that I was in this bubble. I'm a diabetic. I can't do this. I have these bad knees. I can't do this. I have all these herniated discs. I'm because of my sleep apnea and blah, 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 blah. I can't do these things. And then I went out there and I did it. And if I can do that, what else can I do? It literally cleared the slate because I realized I was full of shit. There was nothing holding me back but me. And I can't think of something more liberating than that. Like literally all my doubt was just removed. And once it's gone, that means any other time those doubts come up, they're just excuses. They're not even based in the same thing because I've already redefined the space that I live in. I know I am capable. And so if I start to have those feelings of no, I can't, it's a lie. I have to let logic do its thing. and say that I know, in fact, this is just an excuse to prevent me, to stop me from doing something that may end up in rejection, which is probably what is really happening. I'm probably trying to avoid some sort of pain or heartache or hurt, but it's not because I can't. It's just that I don't. I'm instinctively trying to avoid having to endure some sort of mental or physical or spiritual pain, but it's just an excuse. And when I recognize that, I'm the only one who can do something about it. That said, you don't know what's going to make the spark for you. Just do new shit, do new things, say yes to things. I don't like, I'm not a fisherman. Um, but I remember like saying yes to go on a fishing trip with my buddy down at the Keys. And I'm a guy who, despite all the being out in obstacle courses, I like my creature comforts. I like coming home to a nice bed and, being comfortable and not roughing it with a group of guys anymore. But I just needed to say yes and do things. And it was a hell of a trip. We ended up, our boat broke down like 30 miles away from Cuba. Like it was dangerous. We got towed back. It was a long trip. They were bored out of their mind, but for me, I didn't care. Like we caught a shark while we were out there. It was a new experience of something I wouldn't have been able to experience had I continued to tell myself that I can't do these things. The expression of get comfortable with the uncomfortable, it doesn't mean going out and running in the rainstorm and carrying heavy objects necessarily. Sometimes it means going to bed 5 minutes earlier, waking up 5 minutes earlier, calling somebody instead of texting, just whatever it is that is uncomfortable to do it. As a matter of fact, that's the video I took today after I finished my run, talking about the way that we build mental endurance is by doing the things that we don't want to do. Because I slept in, I didn't get a chance to do my full workout today. And so I forced myself after 5 to just hop on the treadmill and knock out like 30 minutes just to do something. At 21 minutes, I was like, this sucks. I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to do it. And I literally reminded myself that the reason to stay on this right now is because otherwise I'm teaching my mind that it's okay to quit.
Yeah.
I'm not suffering. It was an easy run. I was just bored. And so I just needed the mental endurance to stay the course. But there are things out, just mix it up. That's something I'd recommend to anybody. When I was in a rut like 2 years ago, and it was affecting my training. Like it was the stress of work, it was the stress of money and finance, it was just stress and life stress, and it was all like piling down on me. And I was back in that old song and dance with the snooze button. And
Mhm.
I couldn't get out of work. I mean, I just couldn't get out of bed. And I kept thinking about my training. And I'm like, oh my God, it's going to be so long. It's going to be so hot out. Oh, I didn't run yesterday. I shouldn't even do that workout, blah, blah, blah. And you see, I'm like sinking down into my desk here because that's how I felt. So I said, you know what? Fuck the plan. I got up the next day. I poured a cup of coffee. I grabbed my ruck and I just walked the dog. Or no, I didn't even walk the dog that morning. I just went out by myself. I just walked around my neighborhood with a 30-pound ruck on my back and just walked around for an hour and drank coffee as the sun was coming up. No pressure, no nothing, no goals, no expectations, just taking a left turn. And the very next day, I was able to start my program back up because it wasn't that I was burnt out from training. I was burnt out from the mental stress that I was putting on myself and the overwhelming stress of everything that was adding up. And I don't know if this will help you at all, but something that I'll be talking about a lot lately is on the subject of mental endurance, which is really what I call a lot of this. It's not all the stuff that we do to get mentally tougher. Sometimes it's the stuff we have to say no to.
Mhm.
And you mentioned like the the mask politics, if you will, and I'll just say all the drama of people being mean to each other, right? I went on an unfriending spree these past few years. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. My social media doesn't have negative political shit on there, period, because I don't want to see it. So it's about what I'm saying no to. I have no drama on there or you're gone. I don't care. It's not petty. Like they don't care. They don't notice. It's my feed. It's my nightclub. So I have to take these purposeful actions to remove things that as much as I pretend I don't care, negativity builds negativity and it
Mhm.
grows when waters are still. It's a bacteria. So there's actions I can take. And it's right now when my business, like I want to go 15 different directions a day. And it's like I'm looking at the most tangible thing in front of me, which is money. And I'm like, well, then I need to be like this speaker and I need to do that and I need to do that. And then all of a sudden I'm getting imposter syndrome and I'm feeling this small. I have to, mental endurance is about what I'm saying no to. It's about being able to stay on course. You only have so much mental capacity, period. This is true for anybody. And so the way I save it for the most important things is there's things I just have to choose not to care about. Not as easy. I'm looking around my house. There's 1,000 things I need to fix up around here right now. I don't have the money to do it. I'm choosing to ignore. All my screens got a bunch of holes in them outside. We can barely leave the doors open anymore because mosquitoes are just going to come in. Like it's starting to look like a trailer park back there. Like I hate it. And instead, I'm like, well, at least I have a place to sit outside in Florida because I can't. I I have to. If I focus on that, it's going to take me away from making the money I need to in order to fix that. It's a double-edged sword, but I actively distance myself from negativity. I'll tell friends I can't talk to you.
I felt some of that. I felt on such a deep, visceral level, and I'm so thankful that you shared all of that. When you were talking about at the beginning about the physical action, doing the Spartan racing, and not knowing because of all your physical issues, that, let's face it, most people in the world do use it as a reason not to do something. And for me, it is that fear. And as I was listening to you and I was following along with your journey, and now that you're finished and I'm having a look going, what's coming up? It's, well, remember when you were a kid and you were 7 and 8 and 9 and you were sick all the time. And then through your early teenage years, you were sick all the time. And then remember when you broke your arm when you were a kid, and then you broke your arm when you were a teenager, and all of these little things that happen. And I remember all the times that I fell over and grazed my knees. I remember it on such a deep level that I was running down the playground and I tripped, and it was on gravel, and both of my knees just slid. And I've looked at that a few times, but I've always kind of jumped out of it. But now it's coming up again, of just this fear of the physical body. And you said it before, we get afraid of the spiritual and the emotional and the mental pain. Like that's what we're avoiding. For me, it's also the physical pain, avoiding and I guess the reason it might not be completely mum passing away that caused me just to go, you know what, I'm done. My mum got sick 4 months after my daughter was born. But I also had a really traumatic birth with my daughter. It was meant to be a home birth. It was meant to be fantastic. It ended up in the hospital. It was everything I didn't want it to be. And then it was also excruciatingly painful because then I had like 300 stitches, not to get graphic, but I had about 300 stitches because I tore from asshole to breakfast time. So when you go through that physical pain on such a deep level, and then everything about having a child when you're healing and you're a single mum is extraordinarily painful, because all of a sudden you can't sit down, you can't walk around without going through physical pain. And I think for me, that was kind of like my final. So I can't trust people outside and my external world because they're generally mean, because my family was horrible. I can't trust the spiritual world because, well, basically I lost my dad. Like every generation, every 10 years someone has died. So I don't know 10 years without someone dying. And so then I sit back and I go, okay, so I can't really trust the spiritual world. You can call that God, universe, whatever you want to call it. I can't trust that. I can't trust my financial world because I've spent so much time not having money now. And I can't trust my mental world because it's so negative. The only thing I think I was holding on to was the physical, because I used to do dancing in my 20s and in my 30s I was okay. But then after this happened, it's like, well, now I can't trust my physical body either. So now I don't have anything to hold on to that I can trust, that I feel safe with. Now I don't even feel safe in this physical body because, well, it's just done this. And then when my appendix burst last year, and that was a horrendous experience. And I'm not even, I think I'm just over 4 months out. So there are still limitations. I still can't lift anything heavy because it ended up being major surgery. And I'm listening to you during the Spartan, I'm hearing, do you remember that voice in your head that said you need to do something so you can gain that trust in your physical body again. You need to go out and you want to do a martial art, you want to do something like jiu-jitsu or Krav Maga or something where your physical body is getting involved, so you can challenge your physical body to build that confidence back up again. Do you remember that conversation you had in your head about 3 months ago? And I heard you've done nothing about it. You haven't signed up for a class. You haven't really looked for a class. At which point are you going to actually find something to challenge your physical body to build that trust back up again? Because I think that is part of my journey, is having that trust in what my physical body can achieve when it has let me down so much. So I felt so much of what you talked about with the Spartan racing and you have been diabetic and having all of the different injuries, but going out and doing it anyway.
I think you won't like the next thing I say then.
Tell me.
Here's what I heard, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I'm holding myself back.
Absolutely I am, but
and the rest of it doesn't matter.
I don't know how to stop. I guess that's where I'm at, is I don't know how to not do what I'm doing, which is I don't know how to not hold myself back.
So the first thing you're afraid of is the first thing you need to go do.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you this, the reason when you talk about trust and safety, that's a bunch of bullshit. And candidly, the reason being is because there's no such thing. There is no stability. There is no guarantee whatsoever. You can break your ankle the moment you stand up. Okay. Catastrophic storm could hit one of our homes tonight. We are not safe. There is nothing to trust. The only thing that I can guarantee you that you can trust is that you are alive right now at this moment. All I know is that you are alive right now at this moment. And here's the thing, okay? If I were your doctor, I would tell you not to do anything.
Yeah.
They'd say because here's what doctors say. No, you can't do that. But here's the part they leave out. You can't do that without pain. Why do we have it in our head that we're not to experience pain? So you have expectations on your physical world. You have expectations on your spiritual world, on your financial world. You're putting all these expectations. Another word for those are demands. Mm-hmm. You're not God. You have no control over any of those things, none whatsoever. So you can either live in a bubble and be miserable, or you can accept that bad things happen to good people and you might get hurt, but you're not living your life. Live your life. Don't live your life. There's a divide right there. You have a choice. Every time you step into that fear, even a little bit, just a little bit, you open up your world. You redefine the world that you live in just a little bit. Don't go sign up for a marathon tomorrow. If you want to get back into martial arts, if I were coaching you right now, what I would tell you is that by 5 p.m. tomorrow, you're going to tell me 5 classes that you found or that you've already signed up for. What's stopping you? What reason do you have in the next 24 hours that you can't go online and simply find one? I'm not even telling you to take the action, just to do it. Right. And then we take the next step, or we worry about the next step, or we even see if you want to do it. I gave my dad shit the other day because it's funny. I literally just got off a coaching call, so I was already all primed up. And he was like, yeah, I want to write. Now, my dad's got some stories. All right. He's a private investigator for like a long time. I've been encouraging him to do this for a long time. He was a security professional. There's so many different things he can write. And I'm like, and he's not the most mobile person in the world, but he's a guy you cannot tell him he can't do something. So he's always out and about. And I'm like, Dad, you got to write. So finally he tells me, he's like, yeah, I'm ready to finally start writing. I go, good. When? He's like, and I go, no, when? What time? What time are you going to start writing? He's like, well, I already wrote for a little bit today. I go, okay, when are you going to write tomorrow? And I go, no, don't tell me that you have a goal about writing if you're not going to take action on it. Just tell me you feel like writing, or maybe you like writing, or just don't say anything at all. Like, otherwise you're just creating your own excuses for yourself. If there's something you want to do, when are you going to do it? What's the action you're going to take? I'll tell you what, like when I first had sleep apnea the first couple of years, I mean, it's a miserable thing to begin with. All right. Mm-hmm. Period. If you don't know anything about it, it's awful. Having it is awful. Sleeping with CPAP is awful. It sucks. Life is infinitely better with a CPAP than without it, but it's still a challenge. In the first couple of years, I mean, I have a scar on my nose. I don't even know if you can see it from the mask. I have another one there. And I needed to do something. So literally, as part of my daily task, 5 minutes of sleep apnea research was on my daily to-do list. That's it. I don't know what I was going to do. I just had to look and say, like, look up something and learn something about sleep apnea. Now it's easy. Now you have Instagram. Just follow something. It's all like all the world's information is right there. But
Mhm.
when I wanted to get my book published, it was write to 3 agents per day. It was like do this. And I don't know what's going to work and what's not. For my business, I will be wildly successful as a speaker over time because my mission is to help people and I have a story I believe that can, but I know nothing about the business of being a speaker and a coach. And so as far as the sales aspects of it, like I'm a metrics and ratios guy, and knowing that if I sit here with like, oh, what do I do now? I'm going to find negativity, I'm going to find doubt, and I'm going to find distractions. So I set goals with tangible tasks that from the moment I wake up, I don't have any time to think about what I'm doing. My day is laid out, and it has to be because otherwise I'm going to feel just like that. Like anything that you said isn't unnatural, and it's also not unique. It's, if anything, I think you're already, I think you need to give yourself more credit for taking the action you are in your life by having these conversations and by being vulnerable about it. Like, most people would just be miserable and complain about the weather. So give yourself a high
Try
five for
that.
that.
Can't do
What's
that. I can't have conversations about the weather with people. It's like, no, if you're going to have a conversation with me and complain about something real.
you're like, it's just, I mean, that as an example, there's too much of like, oh, life sucks and this and that and blah, blah. And life does suck. Life is hard. All right. We are here to survive. God dropped us off on this planet. And like now we have life and things that happen and there's no protection for it. So yeah, things are hard sometimes, but again, it's never going to be roses. Like when I had that defining moment out in the water that time, that was when I decided to stop caring about shit happening to me.
Mm.
In fact, I decided that that's what I'm here for. I am here to take a beating because I can handle it. I am meant for a long, hard climb because I can handle it. It Things suck. Like when I lost my dog in 2021, that was probably the hardest thing I had gone through. And no, it was the hardest thing I had gone through. I'm not over it. Just got to keep moving forward. When I realized this too, is it was a couple weeks before the Chicago Marathon, and my heart was broken. I mean, he was my first dog. I had him for 12 years, together when I was single. Like he was my boy. And I just didn't have any heart at all. And I wanted to quit the marathon. I didn't want to race. It was a couple weeks before the marathon, and I was like, I don't even want to do it. I don't want to train. But I thought about it, and I was like, the metaphor is this. Sometimes a race is just a race, but if I start quitting things, when does it end? If I quit that race, what's next? Do I quit my job, my responsibilities as a husband? How about staying sober? It's just not a good time to start quitting things. It rarely ever is. And so I said, because I do put a lot of metaphors on my races, a lot of times I'm doing a race and it's not about the race. It's about me overcoming diabetes, or it's about me overcoming some personality defect or some trauma from my past, or about cancer or sleep apnea, whatever. It's just, there's always, something there. And I was like, all right, well, whatever, just let the race be a race. It's the Chicago Marathon. It's one of the most prestigious races ever. Like, am I going to not run it just because I might have a bad day? I was like, screw it. Like whatever happens, happens. And that's another thing is it's efforts over outcomes in everything that I do. And it's hard to do. I have to disconnect myself from the outcome. So when I'm making a sales pitch, even though I am the product, so if they reject me, it actually is a rejection of me.
Mhm.
It's still not personal to them. And I have to remind myself, my job is to ask the question, not to answer it. So it's like, hey, would you like to hire me for that conference as a speaker? My job is to ask the question, not to answer it, not to put words in their mouth. And that's why I keep track of my activity, because like I want to take my emotion out of it. I want to just make it not about me. Because if I do and live and die by every action, every decision that I do, I don't have my shit together. That would weigh on me way too much.
I'm taking all of this in, and I think the thing I admire about you is that you can take the action, that you can take the action in spite of how you feel. And for some of us, that is a challenge. It is a challenge to take the
I think it's
action,
a challenge for everybody.
regardless of how you feel. Take the action anyway. It is really, really hard, and I know I'm not the only person in the world that is challenged by this experience. And there are so many of us that'll go, "Oh, I'll do it tomorrow. I'm just gonna watch this movie right now." Because, you know, my day has been hard and I've been battling all day with these negative thoughts, and I just need to go into my cave and go into my bubble and disappear and sit down, and tomorrow will be better. But then tomorrow comes and it's exactly the same as the day before, and you do pretty much the exact same things, and all of a sudden
Here's the thing. The cycle won't change unless you change the cycle.
I know, but I don't know how to change the fucking cycle.
Yeah, you do. You just said it. You don't put the movie on, you go for a walk.
Yeah.
You get up and move. It's not going to change your life. And I think that's what you're hoping it will do. It will change that moment. And that moment might lead to another moment. There's no guarantee. But let's just look at it logically for a second. Column A doesn't change anything. In fact, it makes it worse. You think you're comfortable, but you're not, because you just said you're in the same feelings tomorrow. Column B is maybe go do something uncomfortable and hard for 5 minutes. In our heads, we're like, well, it's not going to do anything. Shut up. Nobody asked you. Go do it. Nobody's asking it. Write it down, make a plan, and do it. That's why I have to make a plan. That's why I need a training plan.
Yeah.
I wake up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. If I think about what I'm going to do, I'm going back to bed 100% of the time. I am not some like crazy motivated person. I need a date on the calendar, and I need a plan, and I need it to be a big enough thing that I'm like, fuck yeah, because I do want that exhilarating feeling, right? Like I want that. That's really what I'm driving for, is to feel like I'm alive and I feel like I'm living my life. But action inspires action. Progress inspires progress. It's undeniable. It doesn't mean it will fix the problem in one day. But I can guarantee you it will only be worse when you don't.
Yeah, you go.
I was just going to say, there's two choices, a choice closer to better or a close further away from better. And that's what every decision comes down to.
And I guess that's the hard thing with the instant gratification world, is that some of us do have that brain that wants everything to be different now, without really having to do anything. Like if we go out and do the walk, then we want that one walk to be the thing that all of a sudden makes us the fittest person in the world. Like that instant gratification.
And even if it did, right? Like if you felt so wonderful about everything, and then you get back from the walk and then you sit back down and you go, that didn't work. No, it did. It just worked for that minute. Like, it's hard for me. Thursdays are usually my bad day. Today wasn't so bad. And what I mean by that is because I'll send out, like, I'll do most of my outbound, a lot of my outbound prospecting and stuff, which is mostly through messages. And therefore, I'm not getting responses because I'm sending out messages, right? So I'm not getting instant gratification no matter what. And I'm not going to, because these are messages. So they'll respond tonight, tomorrow, later, if at all. But still, it's getting discouraging because I'm doing this action by myself where I'm doing outbound and nothing in return. That one's tough because I get it. Like, and that feeling is, it is a tough, a tough feeling. But and this probably isn't the best example, but if you have a staircase and you go stand next to the staircase and you look around your room and you can see your vision of this. When you step up one, you start to see a little bit more. One more step, a little bit more. If you were to take one step forward, your physical perspective of the world is actually different than it was one step before. I'm not using psychology here. I'm talking about like literally physically different. Not a lot different because you just took one step. When I talk, there's an obstacle course race I've been chasing for a couple of years now. It's a 31-mile obstacle course in Killington, Vermont. The total elevation for the race is between 16 and 18,000 feet of climbing. There's 60 obstacles, and I've DNF'd it twice. One time by about 6 minutes. Right now, it's real easy for me, and this is what will happen an hour from now, okay? I'm going to be stretching. And when I stretch, I like to visualize. And when I visualize, I daydream. So the first thing I would recommend for you, by the way, is have wild daydreams for yourself. Just literally daydream. Find a daydream that makes you happy about the daydream. It's about just anything, right? Like, I don't know what goes through your head. I see myself like conquering some crazy race, being on stage, helping people, going on an awesome vacation after. Like, I see all these things because I want these positive emotions and I'm building them around something shitty like running. So, so when I'm stretching tonight, um, I will begin to visualize that race. Invariably, somewhere through that exercise, I'm going to think, my God, I only went for a 30-minute run today. I haven't, my times suck. I'm still carrying around 6 extra pounds. How am I ever going to do this mountain race that I have failed twice? And I'm going to start panicking and I'll watch my heart rate start to spike. And then I'll say, okay, what's the most important thing that needs to happen that's within my control that I can do to accomplish this race? And then I'll think, okay, I need to train tomorrow. That's it. There's not, I can't do anything beyond that. It's really important I do that. Okay. What needs to happen for me to train tomorrow? I need to wake up when the alarm goes off. Okay. What needs to happen for me to do that? I need a good night's sleep. Okay. So what needs to happen for that? I need to be relaxed. Okay. What needs to happen for that? I need to breathe. I'm taking a mountain and I'm breaking it down to the next breath that I'm taking. I want that instant gratification, but I've been chasing that bitch for years. And this is what I've had to do is break it down to that one moment. I have some money coming in, but I don't know where, mortgage payments coming from a couple months from now. And it's real easy for me to say, oh my God, let me freak out right now. Or what's the next thing I can do to impact that? Well, currently, you know what? I'm doing it. So nothing to worry about. I'm actually taking the action right now at this very moment that I need to for everything else that's supposed to happen in my business and life. And so even though I thought about it and started to panic for a minute, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And now I can go back, I can be present in doing it and not freaking out. Easier said than done, but this is a battle of moments. This isn't a battle of like life changes. Every one of my life changes, I'm infinitely different than I was before. And it's just these incremental changes that I didn't even plan on. It's just good habits are a gateway drug. And for me, honestly, the hardest thing to do is wake up in the morning because that's when I feel the depression. That's when I feel the fear and exhaustion. And I mean, even this morning, I woke up. I woke up at 4:30. I just didn't get up. So, I mean, I feel it. These things still happen to us, and like there are people who are going to be a lot better at it than I am. And hopefully I'll continue to get better at it. I mean, God, I don't know how I'm going to live when I conquer this mountain because that's why I get out of bed in the morning and what I do is for that mountain.
Wow. This has been such a good conversation. There are so many things. I don't want this to come across as inauthentic, but or fake, because I know sometimes it's like the interpretation can be, oh my God, don't be so fake. But there has been so many moments that I felt in this conversation with you on a level that I hadn't felt before. And it's like, okay, you're someone that I can relate to because you've had the same kind of physical challenges and the same, like the same sort of depth of trauma and the same negative mindset. And I guess that's what I've been looking for over the last year or so of doing these conversations is where is the person that who I can relate to the most, who I can hear myself in the most, who I can then see as someone that can be an inspiration for me to make change. Because it's hard if you don't actually relate to the person that you're having a conversation with because their mum and their dad are both still alive or they had a loving family and you sit back and you think, you don't know what trauma is.
Yeah, it's like we all have our frame of reference, but sometimes you need to be on the same level.
Yeah, we all have our frame of reference, but sometimes it helps when you see, well, damn, someone has the same kind of brain concept where you talk about this morning where you woke up and you didn't get up because for whatever reason, you didn't get up, you couldn't get up. And I was like, yep, I get that. I go through days like that.
Let me share a quick story with you that will resonate, I think, because there's a key lesson in this too. It was probably, so I'm married now, but I was married before and we got divorced and I hadn't realized that it was affecting me at all because it's a pretty easy breakup for us. But, so I was drinking more back then and I was out like doing my thing. Not every night though, but every morning I couldn't get up every morning. I called it sleep paralysis.
Mhm.
Literally every morning from whatever time I would wake up until the last possible second, I would try to go back to sleep. Like I wanted to get into a dream. I was literally trying to escape, but I was physically stuck. And my office started at 8 o'clock. However, I was responsible for four different teams serving all time zones. So on the mornings that I wouldn't get up until 10 o'clock and I'd get to work at 11, I'd just stay with the West Coast team. So nobody knew. And my boss was in a different office and on the other side of the country. So literally, as long as I showed up at all and didn't miss a scheduled meeting, it was so easy for me to hide. But I was miserable, miserable. And just because I was doing that, my cat, my dog, I wasn't spending time with them. I wasn't working out. I wasn't doing anything. And then, of course, you're not buying healthy food. You're not making healthy decisions. So you're ordering out. Like these things compound and compound. My favorite thing to do was take a Vicodin and lie on the couch. And like that was so basically that was at the end of the day. And don't worry, the story has a happy ending though, because I was doing anything I could to get up. And then finally, one morning, I call my boss. It's about 10:30 in the morning on my way to work. His name is Magnus. And I say, Mag, I'm just on my way in right now. And he was like, oh, cool, dude. You're on your way to work with the West Coasters? And I said, well, yes, but that's not why. And now we were friends too. So he was like, oh, did you meet a girl last night? And he assumed maybe that's why I was a little late this morning. And I go, nope. And he goes, oh, why do you have a doctor's appointment? I go, no, Mag, I just can't get up. I just can't get out of bed in the morning. I don't understand. Like, I don't get it, but I just can't do it. I'm stuck. I'm literally physically stuck. And he is the least micromanagement guy in the planet. And he was like, all right. He was like, thanks for telling me. He's like, I want you to call me from the office every day at 8 o'clock. From the office, And I was like, okay. He's like, I'm gonna work with you here, get you on track. It wasn't mad or anything, he wanted to help me. The next day, it went away. Voicing it and accountability took that away from me because now I couldn't hide. Now, the feeling, I went from calling it morning paralysis to morning sickness because I still felt it for the first few hours of the day, but eventually that went away too. But the first thing was I just had to voice it, and I could, if there's a way to hide, get rid of the thing get rid of the cover. Accountability, it was something that helped me get back on track, and it was just removing just one little layer.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, okay. I feel like I could, and I had this at the end of every call. I could just keep talking because there's so much information that I just want to keep extracting and keep hearing more because the validation, right? The validation and the acknowledgement in somebody else just helps
let me
you
tell you
not
this.
feel so bad about where you are in life.
I was going to say the embrace the suck doesn't mean ignoring it. Yeah. Don't feel bad about feeling bad. Like you feel how you feel. Do something about it, but don't feel bad about feeling bad.
Got it. That makes so much sense. I think that's an hour, and I can keep talking to you, but I am aware that you are on the East Coast.
We're way past my bedtime.
This has been such an awesome conversation. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. I hope there's something in there for you. And I'll just say this too. It's, I'm so grateful to be an alcoholic. I am, because I get lessons in this shit all the time. And that's why I need to go to meetings. That's why today I went, because, you talked about something about prioritizing. Oh, and the moving of the boxes and stuff, right? Of course I have to tell you a story. You know where I'm at with my job, right? So I need every minute I've got. Okay. I slept in, so I skipped my workout, which is a hugely important part of my life. I don't know if I'm doing the right prospecting activities on any given day. I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. So I feel like I just need to be doing more. All right. at noon today, I was like, oh, and I have my coaching call that I wanted to join.
Mhm.
I went to an AA meeting instead because that's my number one priority. If I'm not sober, nothing else matters. There's got to be a number one. And without number one, there is no number two.
Yeah.
So, like, that's what it means to have my sobriety is more important than my wife. It's more important than my house, my car, my dogs, my anything, because without that, there is no number two. And the second goal of mine every year, it has to do with my diabetes right now, which is really just a metaphor or a sort of a benchmark for taking care of my health, because without number two, there is no number three. And so I have to prioritize these things. Damned be the consequences, because the consequences of ignoring number one, that's it. The game's over. If I pick up a drink, there is no tomorrow. So that's one thing is if it's a priority, it's a priority and everything else will fall into place. The second part of that I learned and that I get to experience every day through the program is this one day at a time living is not just a bumper sticker. It's all we have. It's all that's guaranteed. And the moment you start thinking down the line, it gets too hard to live today. And I know, especially, and I would say, if I were coaching you right now, I might say hour at a time living is probably what you should focus on
Mhm.
because the mindset stuff, it does get better. I did not wake up this way.
Yeah, true. Absolutely. Can you share, and I will put it in the description below, so it's all there. Can you share details of where people can find you? Because I think you're amazing.
I appreciate that. Absolutely. I am available for speaking gigs. You can find me at www.stridemotivation.com. I am everywhere on social media at Stride Motivation. And my book, Through the Fire, is available on Amazon.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you so much. I could say 1,000 thank yous, and I don't think that would be enough.
Well, then you helped me today. So there you go.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, let me take these headphones out. That I know if you've been watching my videos for a while, at the end of them, I say, oh my God, that was amazing. Because they are all of, as I shared right at the beginning, my whole point to doing this is because I'm so aware that I have such a narrow perspective about how life can be and how to view life. And having conversations with all of these people that I'm having conversations with, it's just widening my perspective. And 12 months of doing this last year, it absolutely changed. It absolutely got me out of the mud. I am not in hell anymore. It is absolutely improving my life. And it might not be improving my life as quickly as my brain wants it to, but it is improving my life. And I do feel better this year than what I did last year, even though I still don't feel good. Last year, I was at a point where I didn't want to live anymore. I spent most of last year wondering, how am I going to do this when I have a kid? How am I going to end my life when I have a kid? That was my thought process last year. I was in a really, really, really dark, depressed place, a really deep depression. I don't feel like I'm in a deep depression this year. I just don't feel like I'm worth anything. I don't feel like there's value anywhere in me, but I'm not depressed about it anymore. I'm not sad about it anymore. I'm looking at it going, well, that sucks. But I don't want to end things anymore. So these conversations, while I can sit back and go, it's making no difference because I've been doing it for 12 months and I'm still no better off financially. I still don't have a partner. I still don't have all of those societal expectations that say I'm doing better. If I just go based on how I feel on a day-to-day basis, I do not feel as bad as I did last year when I started my podcast, especially right back in the beginning. If you go back and watch some of the first episodes, you'll see what I'm talking about. So there's conversations with Nick today, or this chat with Nick today, there was just so much that it's for me, I kind of see it as it's just planting the seed. Having these conversations is planting the seed. And simply because I now understand more about what it takes to get up in the morning. I understand more about what it takes to take action, even if I don't feel like taking action. I understand more about what it takes to take action regardless of how I feel. That does not automatically mean that tomorrow I'm going to get up and take action every minute of every day and get to the end of the day and feel completely satisfied. I might, but I might not. For me, this is about planting the seeds, and it is about re-educating my brain and re-educating me on what it takes. I kind of feel like I'm just planting lots of seeds at the moment, and all of these seeds are going to grow, and week after week, as I have different conversations and potentially ask the exact same questions to each person that I talk to, that seed, I might plant a couple of seeds with Bernadette, and then a couple of seeds with Nick, and as we go, and a couple of seeds with Spencer, and then next week it might be a couple of seeds with Juliana, and then as I water them, and then I'll fertilize them over the year. By the end of the 12 months, I am assuming that some of these seeds are going to sprout, and things are going to be different. Things are going to look different. Things are going to feel different. Even after this call with Nick, I feel different. I feel like, I just feel like I can breathe for a minute. And it's like, okay, there is someone else on this planet. There are flies fuzzing around in this room. I don't know why, but they just love flying around. So after the conversation with Nick, I feel different. I feel this sense of relief, because there is somebody else in the world that understands. There is somebody else in the world that understands what it feels like to not want to get up in the morning, and to not get up in the morning, and what it feels like throughout the day, how that one decision that you made in the morning to not get out of bed then impacts every single moment throughout the rest of the day, because there's this part of you that just feels like crap. I didn't get up, or I didn't make the bed, I didn't brush my hair, I didn't brush my teeth, I didn't eat breakfast, I didn't wash the dishes, I didn't vacuum the floor, I didn't play with my kid, I didn't, and all of these, I didn't do this, I didn't. It all builds up until you get to the end of the day, and there's a mammoth number of tasks that you knew you wanted to achieve that day and you did not achieve. And then you get to the end of the day and you just go, crap. And so what I understand after the conversation with Nick is there is a choice to make in each moment to take those actions. So there are things like kitty litter. I really struggle to clean kitty litter every day, because it's not the most joyful job when you've got 6 cats. We have lots of kitty litters, and they also have an outside enclosure that they can go into. So they go outside as well. But it's just that action of cleaning the kitty litter every day. And if I get to the end of the day and I hop into bed and I go, oh, damn, I forgot to clean the kitty litter today, I'm going to have to do that tomorrow. And then knowing that each day that I don't do it, it gets worse and worse and worse and worse. It's one of those, gross tasks that we have to do. There's a car driving past, you might be able to hear it coming. So it means that I go to sleep knowing that I did not do something that I actually wanted to do that day, that there was a task that I knew I wanted to do, and I didn't do it. And then I go to sleep with that feeling. I go to sleep with that feeling of, oh, man, I didn't do it. And then for me, it accumulates, because then I wake up in the morning and I start my day with that feeling of, I didn't do that thing yesterday, and I know I'm probably not going to do it today because I didn't do it yesterday. And these feelings accumulate for me. And so if I go weeks without, I don't ever go weeks without cleaning the kitty litter, but if there's something that I know I want to do and I do not do it, and I go weeks without doing it, that feeling accumulates until I do the thing that I know that I wanted to do, and then the feeling subsides. But it is hard. It is hard. Yeah, it's hard. If you would like to support this channel, please go and subscribe. Subscribe, it's the best thing that you can do right now to support the channel. I am trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, and I think I'm at about 730 or something like that. So if you could subscribe, like this episode, and share it, I would really greatly appreciate it. And I appreciate you for being here and for watching this episode and coming on this journey with me. And please do, as you know, if you've been watching these episodes over the last couple of weeks and sharing your comments, I'm really enjoying and appreciating you sharing your comments, because it is helping me expand my perspective. It's helping me. Well, what was that? Oh, sorry. I just had something drop on my leg and I had no idea what it was. And it was a little piece of paper, because my daughter and I have been in her room this morning, and she's torn up all these tiny little pieces of paper, and she's created like a snow field for her toys in her room. She's got paper down and then all this torn paper on top, and we built snowmen out of paper. And this morning we were having a snowball fight. So, and that is part of the snow. And it just tickled my leg and freaked me out because I thought it was a spider. So, oh God. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. Thank you for watching and participating in this journey with me. And yeah, I will see you in the next episode. And make sure you check out the description below to go and follow Nick. Thanks for being here. Bye.